In saturated arenas, output becomes noise. The more you produce, the less each unit matters. You are compared, replaced, forgotten not because you lack ability, but because your position makes you replaceable. You do not need to be the best in a crowded field. You need to be distinct in a controlled one. Stop asking, how can I work harder? Ask instead, where does effort create disproportionate return? Seek asymmetry gaps where leverage is high and competition is low. Move away from competition, not toward it. Where many compete, differentiation is expensive. Where few operate, even moderate competence can dominate. You are not here to prove capability. You are here to secure position. Leverage means small actions create amplified outcomes. Effort is multiplied by structure, timing, or scarcity. You do less, but each move carries weight. You do not chase every opportunity. You select only those where your presence shifts the balance. Reduce effort. Increase impact. This is not laziness. It is precision. Eliminate actions that do not change your position. Focus only on what compounds. Others appear busy. You appear selective. Over time, they accumulate fatigue. You accumulate leverage. Understand the hierarchy. Effort is common. Skill is replicable. Positioning is decisive. Without positioning, your ceiling is fixed. Most people move too early. They equate speed with strength. Immediate action relieves uncertainty but sacrifices leverage. Acting first often means acting blind. Early is vulnerable. Controlled patience is not passivity. It is a disciplined observation. You refuse to act until action creates advantage. You do not force outcomes. You wait for conditions where outcomes become likely, even inevitable. In negotiation, urgency loses. The impatient party reveals limits and negotiates against themselves. The one who waits controls pace. The one who rushes surrenders it. Outcomes are shaped less by intelligence than by timing. Strategic delay is the selection of moments. You allow others to overextend, expose weakness, and exhaust resources. You gather information without announcing intent. Uncommitted means flexible. Flexible means powerful. Speed is useful when conditions are clear. It is destructive when they are not. Impatience confesses dependency. Timing signals control. Influence follows a simple law. Constant presence creates dilution. What is always available loses weight. Influence is not frequency, it is consequence. If nothing changes when you arrive or leave, your presence carries no impact. Controlled absence increases value. Presence builds awareness. Absence builds demand. Re-entry captures attention. You manage not only what you produce, but access to it. Recognition cannot be your fuel. Perception shifts. Structure endures. Position yourself where effort multiplies and timing protects you. Do not compete in crowded spaces. Create arenas where your presence alters outcomes. You are not here to be busy. You are here to be decisive. If a message is answered, respond at your pace. Brief, precise, detached. If it is never answered, redirect your energy. You do not chase acknowledgement from someone rationing it. This is not pride. It is structured. The world runs on perception and self-interest. No one ignores you by accident. They ignore to prioritize, to test, to signal. You cannot control motives. You control reaction, and reaction defines hierarchy. The first to react accepts the lower position. The first to seek reassurance admits dependence. When ignored, remain still. Do not defend your worth. Do not demand recognition. Silence, met with silence, equalizes. Stillness unsettles those who expected pursuit. Respect is not granted for openness, but for position. Over-explaining lowers value. It invites evaluation. Slight ambiguity creates space. Space creates intrigue. Intrigue elevates perception. Strategic invisibility is calibration, not withdrawal. Be seen at decisive moments, not constantly. Selective engagement builds hierarchy. Power is not what you feel. It is what others conclude from your composure, scarcity, and restraint. The battlefield is perception. Ignore impulsively, and you look insecure. React impulsively, and you confirm subordination. But ignore with discipline, engage with precision, and you construct an image that requires no defense. Power is not what you feel, it is what others conclude. Silence is not the absence of power, it is compressed power. The average mind fears silence. It equates quiet with weakness and believes strength must be visible and asserted. So when excluded from a decision loop, removed from a group chat, or subtly disregarded in public, the instinct is confrontation. Why wasn't I informed? Is there a problem? These questions rarely project strength. They project anxiety about rank. The illusion is that silence equals weakness. In reality, uncontrolled speech equals weakness. Silence, when deliberate, is controlled aggression. It withholds reaction, validation, and access to your internal state. When you are excluded from strategic conversations, it is rarely random. It is a signal. Your value may be tested, your reaction measured, your dependence evaluated. Those who rush to demand inclusion reveal conditional influence. They require acknowledgement to feel relevant. The powerful do not beg for inclusion. They assess. If excluded, ask one internal question. Is my leverage intact? If yes, silence is superior to protest. If not, rebuild leverage quietly. You do not complain about the board. You reposition it. In group dynamics, public disregard is often hierarchy testing. Someone interrupts you. Someone speaks over your point. The inexperienced escalate emotionally, sharpen their tone, and attempt to reclaim the floor by force. The room observes the loss of composure. Status declines. Disciplined restraint communicates immunity. When interrupted, you stop calmly. You lean back. You let the interrupter finish. When the room settles, you either continue in a measured tone or choose not to resume at all. Both signal controls. You are not fighting for air. Reduced availability is the next layer. If exclusion persists, you do not chase relevance. You narrow access, fewer contributions, more precision. You become less predictable in participation. When you speak, it carries weight because it is not constant. Scarcity intensifies authority. If removed from a decision loop, you do not stall waiting for acknowledgement. You build parallel channels. You strengthen relationships outside the narrow structure, attempting to marginalize you. You deliver results that cannot be ignored without visible resentment. Emotional transparency in these moments is surrender. Silence conceals vulnerability. Confrontation can be necessary, but only when leverage supports it. Without leverage, confrontation is exposure. You reveal dependence on the outcome. True dominance is the ability to endure tension without flinching. Silence creates tension. Most rush to relieve it with explanations and clarifications. The disciplined allow silence to stretch. Others begin projecting into it. Did we miscalculate? Why isn't he reacting? Uncertainty becomes pressure. Understand the distinction. Reactive silence is withdrawal. Chosen silence is positioning. Withdrawal comes from fear. Positioning comes from calculation. If left out of a group chat, you do not request entry. You observe the structure forming without you. If it is irrelevant, you lose nothing. If it becomes influential, you connect directly with key individuals instead of chasing collective acknowledgement. Direct lines are stronger than public threads. Dominance is not loud, it is stable. Escalated composure is a weapon. The more someone attempts to unsettle you, the more relaxed you appear. Voice steady, responses brief, no visible shift in tempo. You do not mirror agitation, you absorb it and remain unchanged. Your goal is not to win every exchange, it is to maintain position over time. Silence protects long-term authority. Emotional confrontation often sacrifices it for short-term relief. Attention is currency. Most spend it recklessly and then wonder why they are treated as expendable. The market rewards scarcity, not abundance. If you are always available, always responsive, always ready to engage, you communicate one thing: your time is cheap. Cheap resources are consumed without respect. Expensive resources are approached with caution. Constant availability builds familiarity, not authority. Familiarity erodes hierarchy. Immediate replies and rapid compliance may prove efficiency, but efficiency without boundary becomes servitude. Observe high-level power structures. Those with influence do not respond instantly to every message. Their delay is filtration. They choose where attention flows. When a client delays responding, the inexperienced send multiple follow-ups, each lowering perceived leverage. The message becomes clear: you need this more than they do. Instead, send one measured follow-up after an appropriate interval, neutral tone, no urgency implied. Then redirect focus elsewhere. Build alternatives. Maintain rhythm. With superiors, communicate concisely. Do not over-explain. If acknowledgement is delayed, proceed based on the best available information, calmly, confidently, without repeated requests for reassurance. Your posture communicates independence. Slower pacing is calibration. You respond when it strengthens position, not when anxiety demands relief. Measured responses signal control. Not everyone deserves equal access to your time. Prioritize based on leverage and strategic value. Selectivity creates perceived importance. When everyone has unlimited access, no one values it. Control your tempo. Control your tone. Control your visibility. If someone returns with sudden urgency after delay, you do not mirror volatility. You respond within your defined parameters: clear, calm, non-negotiable. Stability under ambiguity builds authority. Access control is a mechanism of rule. When your attention is scarce, your presence gains gravity. When your time is structured, your involvement becomes significant. When your responses are measured, your words carry weight. You do not announce this strategy. You embody it. The majority will continue chasing acknowledgement and confusing busyness with influence. You remain controlled. Attention is currency. Spend it like a ruler, not a servant. Power does not begin in the room. It begins in the nervous system. Before strategy, positioning, silence, or scarcity, there is one battlefield that determines everything: your internal reaction. Most men lose there. They mistake emotional expression for strength. They believe authenticity requires discharge. It does not. Feelings are data, not directives. When you are ignored, something primitive activates agitation, the urge to check your phone, to replay the last exchange, to draft a message you have not sent. This is not strategy. It is submission to stimulus. Emotional governance begins with restraint. You notice the impulse. You do not obey it. You observe the urge to follow up. You delay it. You watch the imagined confrontation arise. You let it dissolve. This is not suppression. It is a command. Venting does not restore balance. It advertises imbalance. When you complain about being ignored, you expose your pressure points. Now others know how to move you. He who reveals his triggers hands over leverage. The disciplined pause is where superiority forms. Not seconds, sometimes hours or days, until emotional charge weakens and calculation returns. In that pause, you ask, is this silence intentional or circumstantial? Does reacting improve my position or weaken it? What outcome serves me long-term, not emotionally? You replace impulse with structure. Obsessive phone checking is a confession of dependence. Each glance reinforces the belief that your state depends on another's action. That is psychological outsourcing of authority. Stop outsourcing. Rehearsing confrontations in your head is simulated dominance. It drains energy and sharpens resentment. Resentment leaks into tone. Tone leaks into behavior. Behavior reveals instability. Strategic superiority demands internal stillness. You tolerate ambiguity without inventing motives. You do not assume rejection or disrespect. You gather data. Most rush to define uncertainty because definition brings relief. But premature definition damages position. You are not your reaction. You are the observer of it. When emotion rules you, others will rule you. When you rule emotion, others feel it. Calm under provocation suggests depth and options. It signals that your world does not revolve around a single interaction. That suggestion is power. When you finally act through silence, delayed response, or engagement, it is not driven by agitation. It is driven by position. You do not text because you are anxious. You text because it advances structure. You do not withdraw because you are hurt. You withdraw because scarcity increases value. Emotional governance is filtration. Raw emotion enters. Only strategic action exits. If a delayed reply destabilizes your mood, you are governed. If exclusion provokes visible agitation, you are governed. Governed men cannot govern situations. Reversal is recalibration, not revenge. When someone who ignored you re-engages, that is the inflection point. The inexperienced mind feels relief and replies instantly, flooding the exchange with enthusiasm. That communicates, "I was waiting." Leverage is lost. Instead, maintain emotional memory without emotional display. You remember the silence. You do not dramatize it. You adjust structure. Respond to your timing, not to punish, simply to signal independence. Your time is not governed by their renewed interest. Brevity creates distance. Distance creates gravity. If they act as though nothing happened, allow it. Do not ask for explanations. The demand for closure positions you beneath them. You do not require closure. You require position. Strategic superiority begins when your internal state no longer shifts with every external stimulus. You do not react. You decide. And in that difference lies hierarchy. Subtle reinforcement of boundaries occurs through structure, not speech. If they previously delayed responses for days, you now take measured time yourself. If they cancelled plans casually, you reduce spontaneous availability. If they ignored strategic input, you narrow what you share going forward. No announcement, no lecture, adjustment. The power shift happens in silence. Real leverage is invisible. It is felt in pacing, in tone, in access. After your composed withdrawal, they may sense something different. Less eagerness, less access, more composure. That sensation unsettles them. They cannot identify the exact shift, but they feel it. That is leverage. You are not restoring equality. You are redefining it. If they attempt to accelerate the interaction, urgent requests, sudden interest, emotional intensity, you maintain a steady tempo. You do not mirror urgency. You do not absorb their emotional spike. You remain measured. This stability forces recalculation on their side. Reversal is not about making them feel what you felt. That is emotional thinking. Reversal is about ensuring the structure no longer disadvantages you. You transform absence into leverage by proving you are unaffected by it, by building parallel options, by continuing progress elsewhere. So, when they return, they are entering your timeline, not resuming theirs. If you choose to disengage permanently, you do so without announcement. No dramatic farewell. No final message explaining your standards. Silence is cleaner. Explanation invites negotiation. If you choose to maintain the connection, you do so with recalibrated access, less exposure, less emotional transparency, more evaluation. You do not chase equilibrium. You dictate it. Equilibrium suggests balance between two dependent forces. Dictation suggests one stable axis around which others adjust. In professional settings, this may mean no longer over-delivering for a client who tested your boundaries. You meet the agreement, Precisely. No extras. In social settings, it may mean no longer initiating consistently. You respond. You do not pursue. In romantic dynamics, it may mean maintaining mystery where you previously offered availability, not games. Structure. The critical element is internal clarity. If your reversal is fueled by ego, it will crack under pressure. If it is fueled by strategy, it will remain consistent. Consistency builds reputation. Reputation builds authority. The majority either chase or retaliate. They swing between pursuit and coldness. Both extremes are reactions. You remain centered. Your temperature does not fluctuate based on theirs. When they re-engage, you are polite, controlled, slightly distant, not hostile, not eager, neutral, with gravity. That neutrality communicates something powerful. You are not moved easily, and those who are not moved easily move others. Reversal is complete when they adjust their behavior without you ever demanding it. Faster responses, more respect for your time, increased caution in how they handle access. You did not argue. You did not complain. You adjusted. You do not chase equilibrium. You dictate it. The weak treat every slight as an emergency. The disciplined treat it as information. When ignored, most people rush to correct the moment. They believe every act of disregard must be confronted immediately or status will erode permanently. This is short-term thinking. Emotional thinking. It reveals insecurity about rank. Power is not defended in moments. It is constructed over time. The illusion is that silence equals disappearing, that if you do not correct the slight now, you will lose relevance forever. This fear drives impulsive confrontation, excessive clarification, public attempts to reclaim attention. But relevance, built on reaction, is fragile. In competitive corporate ladders, acknowledgement is rationed strategically. Promotions are not given to the most reactive, they are given to the most stable. If a superior withholds recognition, the inexperienced employee panics. They schedule unnecessary meetings. They highlight achievements repeatedly. They seek reassurance. The strategic mind does something else. It expands horizontally. If one channel restricts visibility, you build others. Cross-functional relationships, quiet alliances, direct lines to decision-makers, independent projects that produce measurable results. You make yourself structurally valuable, not emotionally visible. Visibility can be denied. Structural value cannot. In social circles, rank is constantly tested. Invitations delayed. Messages unanswered. Public acknowledgement selectively given. If you chase inclusion, you confirm a lower position. If you withdraw entirely out of pride, you remove yourself from the board. Neither extreme is strategic. You remain present, composed, selective, but you reduce emotional investment in any single gatekeeper. You diversify attention. You cultivate parallel connections. You become socially anti-fragile. In negotiations, acknowledgement is often withheld to create pressure. Silence is used to extract concessions. The inexperienced negotiator fills the silence with discounts, justifications, new offers. The strategic negotiator lets silence breathe. If the deal collapses because acknowledgement was withheld, so be it. Because they have alternatives. Alternatives are power. Long-term positioning means reducing dependence on any one source of validation. One boss, one client, one social circle, one romantic interest. If your sense of relevance depends on a single structure, you are easily manipulated within it. Structural advantage comes from optionality. Build parallel income streams, parallel alliances, parallel opportunities. When ignored, you do not collapse inward, you redirect outward. You strengthen foundations that do not rely on approval. This transforms isolated moments of being ignored into diagnostic tools. Who controls access? Where are you dependent? Which relationships are asymmetrical? Instead of correcting the slight, you correct the structure. Over time, something shifts. The same people who once rationed acknowledgement begin to recalibrate, because your behavior signals independence. You are no longer seeking entry. You are building elsewhere. Independence alters perception. You do not need to announce your detachment. It is felt in pacing, in tone, in reduced urgency, in your willingness to walk away from unbalanced dynamics. Most people fight for position inside systems that quietly diminish them. The strategic minority builds leverage outside those systems. Independence is the ultimate response. Not coldness, not revenge, not dramatic exits. Independence. When you cannot be cornered by silence, you cannot be controlled by it. And when control is no longer possible, respect becomes practical. There is a clear line between those who are moved and those who move others. Most men live below that line. They react to tone, to delay, to exclusion. Their mood rises and falls with unanswered messages. Their confidence depends on acknowledgement. They believe they are participating in the game, yet they are being positioned by it. The transformation begins the moment you see this without defensiveness. You were not powerless because others ignored you. You were powerless because you reacted. Every time you rushed to clarify, to demand recognition, to restore emotional comfort, you handed over rank. That was the old structure, reactive, exposed, governed by stimulus. The new structure is deliberate. You do not eliminate emotion. You subordinate it. You do not eliminate desire for status. You control how it is pursued. You begin to understand that ignoring is not cruelty. It is filtration. It is a hierarchy made visible. Those who cannot tolerate being ignored will always be controlled by those who can deploy it. This is the boundary between rulers and the ruled. The ruler governs attention. The rules seek it. The ruler decides pace. The ruled chase closure. The ruler remains stable under ambiguity. The ruled scramble to dissolve it. The hierarchy shifts the moment you refuse to react. Not outwardly, internally. When silence no longer provokes pursuit, you become unpredictable. When exclusion no longer provokes explanation, you become difficult to rank. Attention is a weapon. It directs energy. It creates value. It signals priority. If you distribute it sentimentally, you weaken yourself. If you govern it strategically, you shape perception. From this point forward, you measure yourself not by how quickly you are acknowledged, but by how calmly you can withhold response. You stop asking to be seen. You become selective in what you see. You stop explaining your worth. You demonstrate it through controlled absence and precise engagement. This is not arrogance. It is sovereignty. Now seal it. Bind yourself to discipline, not emotion. Repeat it without hesitation. I will not chase attention. I will not explain my worth. I will not surrender my position through impulse. My silence is deliberate. My presence is controlled. My attention is earned.